Hey, I'm Jamey from Stonemaier Games, and today I'm going to talk about the TV show, the TV competition show called The Traitors. This is a show that I've really been enjoying, at least the US version. I haven't watched the other versions of the show, and I'm currently caught up in season 3. And similar to the Mr. Beast Games video that I filmed recently, I thought I'd look at The Traitors from a game design perspective and a little bit from an audience perspective, but largely in terms of game design, how it impacts the different players in the game. The core construct of the game, if you're not familiar with it, is that a bunch of mostly reality TV stars show up in this castle in Scotland. And from those people that show up, the producers select typically around 3 people to be traitors. And in every episode of the show, the contestants will compete in a challenge to add money to a pool. And then there will be a voting where someone will be voted off who is suspected of being a traitor. And then the traitors will go off that night and they will choose someone to murder, to eliminate from the game. So in every episode, typically there are 2 people who are eliminated from the game, one from vote, one from murder. There are other twists throughout the show. I'll talk about some of them on in this episode, but that is the general crux of the show. So I have 7 things to discuss here, 7 quick topics, and the first one is kind of an overall question: should the audience know who the traitors are? And I think so in every version of the show that I've watched so far, again, only watched the US version, you always know who the traitors are. Me as the audience, we know who the traitors are. I would love for them to make a season where we know some of the traitors, but where one of the traitors is a mystery to us. I think this would be very easy to do in editing. It would, the show itself, the way it's filmed, would not change all that much, except there would be one camera that would just never show one of the traitors, and we wouldn't hear that traitor speak. But I think to leave the audience guessing in the same way that the faithful, the people who aren't the traitors in the show, the way the faithful are guessing, I think would be a really neat experiment. I don't entirely know if it would work, but I would love for them to try, just to see how it works out, to leave us a little bit in the dark, just like the people in the game, and leave one of the traitors a mystery. That is my number 7 point that I think I would like to see on the traitors. At number 6, I would, so there's a choice in the game that happens typically fairly late in the game where the traitors select someone to either become a traitor or to be eliminated. This choice has evolved over time a little bit. So early on, the traitors sent essentially a letter to one of the faithful saying, hey, do you want to be a traitor? And that person can either say yes or no. And if they say no, then they remain in the game. And if they say yes, then they become a traitor. This has evolved into something where the traitors choose someone and they come face to face with that person and say, hey, do you want to become a traitor? And if they say yes, they become a traitor. And if they say no, they are murdered. They are eliminated from the game. And so this isn't really a choice. And it's crucial to know, I think, at this point in the game, and the reason that they changed this is that at this point in the game, late in the game, the faithful are really strongly have this sense of kind of camaraderie about finding the traitors and being faithful. Like most of them, I think, at this late in the game, don't want to be a traitor. They don't like the traitors. The traitors have been eliminating their teammates for this entire game. So that's why you need to give them some sort of a choice. But the choice of being a traitor or dying isn't really a choice. And so my friend Miles thought of a good solution for this, which I really like, which is you can either become a traitor. Don't do it face to face. Don't do that, because then the faithful knows exactly who the traitor is. That's a giveaway that you can't have them have that information, that perfect information. So give them the choice by letter of either becoming a traitor or remaining a faithful, but they can't use shields anymore. I'll talk about shields in my next point, but that's something that protects you from being murdered. So you can't use a shield anymore. So they remain a faithful, but they are weaker for it. And so that way it is a little bit more of a compelling choice. They don't want to become a traitor, so that's a tough choice, but they also probably don't all that strongly want to remain a faithful without the power of shields. So I think that is a nice solution for what I perceive as a non-choice in the current version of the game. At number 5, I have the shields themselves. So the shields, I think, are a great mechanism for the game. The shields are something it's something that typically you can discover in a challenge, or that you can earn in a challenge, that protects you from being murdered. And I think the best use of the shields, they're used in different ways. And overall, I really think the use of the shields, the way they're designed into the game, is really good. But I think the best use is when in these challenges, typically to gain money, and shields are involved in these challenges, when in the challenges you were divided into multiple groups, and for each group, there's the potential of gaining one shield. I think this is a great way to have the shields out there available to gain, because it creates an uncertainty of information. It's unlikely when you have multiple groups. I think maybe even 4 might be the ideal number of groups. You know that at least in some of those groups, there's no traitor there. And so there's no traitor to know who gained the shield in that group. And that creates an additional layer of uncertainty and information really for the faithful, for when the traitors murder someone. They kind of might suspect, okay, well, the traitors probably weren't in the group, weren't in this group because they had the information in group A that there was a shield, but they didn't know about group B because that was the group where someone was eliminated from, or wasn't eliminated from. Overall, I think dividing people into groups, creating limited information for the traitors in regard to the shields, is a big move, because the danger for the traitors is they choose someone from an unknown group that had a shield, and they eliminate someone from that, or they try to eliminate someone from that group. They try to murder them, but that person ends up having a secret shield that they didn't know about from the competition, and they aren't actually eliminated. So overall, yeah, I think the idea of dividing into groups, ideally 3 or 4 groups, to create that asymmetry in information between the shields and the traitors, I think is really helpful. That's number 5. At number 4, I just want to say that I think the best part of the show, or one of the best parts of the show, is when traitors turn on each other. And I think this aspect of the show shines as it currently is. I don't think there's a lot to change at all for it, because I think this isn't something that you can gamify. I think this is something that that is a core element of the show, just as it currently is. Traitors, if they get to the end of the game, they have to divide the money if there are traitors remaining in the game. And so if you have a $200,000 prize pool, as a traitor, you probably at some point want to get out the other traitors, because that way you don't have to share that money. And so along the way, it creates this suspicion within the traitors, and you see it a lot in season 3. Check out season 3 if you haven't seen the traitors. The traitors themselves suspect each other a lot of turning on each other, and they kind of are turning on each other. And that creates a great tension and creates a great dynamic for the traitors versus each other, as they are also going against the faithful. It gives the faithful actually a lot more information than normal. So I think traitor on traitor is very good for the game, and I hope that continues. At number 3, so this is one of the things that I also wonder about. I don't know for sure if it would work from a game design perspective, but I think it's worth experimenting with. And this is, currently, the shields, as I previously mentioned, can protect you from being murdered by the traitors. However, currently, there is no way to protect yourself, no form of immunity to prevent yourself from simply being voted out at the round table if people suspect you. And at different points in the game, there really isn't much for people to go on in terms of who they suspect. So I am proposing that they add some form of immunity to the game. It could be something that you can find, like in Survivor, a hidden immunity idol, that sort of thing. But I think a better way to do it might be for there to be a winner at the challenges, where at each challenge, there is some element of the group coming together to earn money for the prize pool, to gain shields, things like that. But there is also a single person who wins each challenge, and that person gains immunity. I think this could create an immunity from the vote, not from being eliminated by the traitors, but immunity from the vote. And I think this could create a really interesting dynamic, because if I'm in a challenge and I'm going really strongly after immunity, does that make people suspect me because they think, oh, I'm a traitor who doesn't want to get voted off? Or am I just a person in the game who doesn't want to get voted off? I think that uncertainty is really helpful. And I think it would give people a really strong reason to compete really hard in these challenges, because they might have the chance of earning the immunity from the vote. Currently, I think that the only problem with the vote, I think overall it works pretty well, but the problem that I've seen with it is that it's kind of fair game for anyone to be eliminated for really not all that good of a reason. So it can even be a popularity contest, which is also part of these competition games. But yeah, I think immunity might help. I'd love to see it. Maybe it wouldn't work, but I'd love to see it in one season. And number 2, I love in the game when there are challenges that reveal information about the traitors. And unfortunately, these types of challenges, I feel, are pretty rare. A good example of it was actually on a recent episode where the traitors in advance had to kind of give superlatives to the people who were in the game, like the person who's in charge, the person who feels like they're in charge, and the traitors chose that person. And then during the challenge, if the group correctly guessed who the traitors picked as being that person, then more money was entered into the prize pool. And the dynamic that emerged from this is that the traitors at this point, especially late in the game, the traitors want to add more money to the prize pool. Like anyone does, really, but the traitors in particular do. And so the traitors, you could see them trying to guide the conversation a little bit, which gave a lot of information to the other players. Like, why is this person kind of guiding us towards this one person specifically being selected for this? And the reason is because the traitors had perfect information. The traitors were the ones that selected the people in the first place and were then guiding them. I'd love to have more challenges like this where there's a reason for people to suspect the traitors. And I think one of the ways to do it, taking a nod from this challenge, is let the traitors influence the challenge in some way in advance. And that way, as the challenge is being run, people know that the traitors had an impact on the challenge. And so they start to wonder, the faithful start to wonder during the challenge, oh, why did the traitors choose this thing for this part of the challenge instead of this thing? Like, why did they choose a really physical path to this challenge? Does that mean that it's a big dude who selected, or a really strong woman who selected this challenge? Or why do they choose like this mental game for this challenge? I know this person's really good at games. Anyway, I think having the traitors influence the challenges in advance, I think would have add a great dynamic and a little bit more information to give to the faithful, and a reason for the faithful to pay attention to other people during the challenges themselves. So I think that might help the challenges have a bigger impact on the game. Last, at number one, I keep talking about the prize pool. So I've skirted over this a little bit, but the general idea in the current game is that you compete in these challenges to add money to the prize pool. And at the end of the game, if there's even one traitor remaining, that traitor or the traitors receive and split the entire prize pool. However, if there are no traitors remaining at the end of the game, then the remaining faithfuls, if there would only be faithfuls at that point, they would split the prize pool. The show is, I would say, a little cheap in compared to other competition shows in terms of how much money ends up in this prize pool. Like $100,000 is a lot of money, but $100,000 split between a few people, it doesn't end up being that much. So I think overall, I wish they would increase the prize pool a little bit. But I think what I'd love to see them try is at the beginning of the game, and let me pause for a second because I have a little bit of, that I've written about this, and I want to make sure I say it exactly correct. 1 second. Okay, here I got a little clarification from my past self because I wrote about this a while ago. The way I think the game should work is make the pot, let's say $1 million, up the odds a little bit, make it $1 million. The traitors start with a pot of $1 million, and the faithful start with a pot of money, a pool of money of $0. And every time you compete in a challenge, you take money from that traitor pool and you shift it into the faithful pool. And so at the end of the first challenge, you could potentially maybe do it in 10 episodes, do $100,000 increments. They could potentially add up to $100,000 to the faithful prize pool. And at the end of the game, you have these two prize pools. So if the faithfuls win, then the faithfuls look at their own prize pool and split that amount. If the traitors win, they have their own prize pool. They divide up that amount. But what I think this does is that it gives the traitors, instead of giving the traitors a reason to do well in the challenges, it gives the traitors a reason to do poorly in the challenges. And therefore, they are putting suspicion on themselves. But at the same time, like any great deduction game like this, or social deduction bluffing game, it puts suspicion on various people because someone might just not do well in a challenge. It puts suspicion on them. It doesn't mean they're a traitor, but people might start to wonder, hey, this person did really poorly. They put in very little effort in this challenge. Does that mean they're a traitor? Because they're not that would result in them not adding more money to the faithful pool and pulling it from the traitor pool. I think this is maybe the biggest flaw in the current game, that you really don't learn that much information from the challenges. And I talked about that once and having the traders impact the challenges in advance. But I think the way the prize pool is used and divided up, I think could have a really good impact on the game. If again, the traders start with a giant prize pool, and whenever a competition happens, a challenge happens, some of that money will shift over to the faithful pool, depending on how well the faithful competed, giving the traders a reason to throw the challenge and giving the faithful information about who the traders might be. Because the traders want that money that they start with, the $1 million that they start with, they want that to remain in their prize pool. They don't want it shifting over to the faithful. Yeah, that is my number one recommendation to the show, that they try in some season just to see how it works. Again, these are experiments. I don't know exactly how they work, but from a game design perspective, I think that would enhance the challenges and the competitions and really raise the stakes for them and give the faithful more information. And in general, the faithful need a little bit more information. Those are my thoughts on the Traitors. I'd love to hear your thoughts about the game design of the Traitors and how it might be improved. Let me know about that in the comments below. Thanks.